I got a question for you. I got a question for you.
All right, before we start this, I need to make sure, did you take your blood pressure medicine this morning? So, because I think you're good. I think you're either going to laugh at this or you're going to be.
Well, I do not have blood pressure problems.
I know.
So whip it on me.
All right, here we go. Dear Derek and George, my name is Talinda and I live in Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago.
Unbelievably, I put that in parenthetically, by the way. I am a registered Democrat. Okay.
Okay. First name again?
Talinda
Okay.
Jackson. But for some reason, I still listen to your show. As you can imagine, I absolutely disagree with just about everything the both of you say from the beginning of your show until the end.
Okay.
But here's a nice little thing. I listen because you're fair. That's nice. But, see, they can never end with that. They always have to put in a but. But believe both of you are blinded by hatred for our president. In all fairness, I do not believe either of you to be racist, only misguided. That's nice. With that said, here's my question for George.
Okay, and I kind of appreciate the way this is presented.
I think so too. I thought that was very good.
Straight up here.
And then the question.
Yeah,
George, have you ever seen a president or know of a president who has been so badly mistreated by the conservative agenda in this country? This disdain and hatred, molded by the likes of both of you, Limbaugh, Hannity, and Riley, which is nice to get lumped in with, I suppose, is an ever-growing example of how far the conservative right will go in order to hijack an agenda of a president who is trying to bring this country into the 21st century world. Shame on the both of you. Talinda Jackson, Chicago, Illinois. Thank you, Talinda, so much for that.
Well,
but the question, I think, is, have you ever seen a president or know of a president who has been so badly mistreated by the conservative agenda in this country? And what I'm assuming, or maybe I should change the question for her just a little bit because she kind of hijacked it a little bit and moved it over. I think the question is, have you ever known of a president who has been so mistreated by the other side, not just the conservative agenda? Because I think with the way that she asked the question, it would be only Democratic presidents.
Okay.
There's the question.
Okay, so Talinda, thank you for listening, and I hope you're listening to the response. I disagree with you very much on, you said you think we're blinded by hatred for the president.
I think that's
I do not hate this president.
Yeah.
I will say I hate many of his ideas. And that's a huge difference. I do not think this president, and some people will say, he's evil, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that. I think when we can create evil, bad things when we are very misguided. And I will say that I hate many of his policies, and most of that being that he does, and he was asked about this on O'Reilly's show, and of course he didn't answer the question, but he has said he wanted to fundamentally change America.
Right.
I do not want to fundamentally change America. The America I've grown up in, and out here in Colorado, I was pretty well raised colorblind, have friends of about every color there are on this planet. So I don't look through things of any racial color. I'm glad there is a man of color finally in office. I wish it was one that I remotely agreed with most things on. Now, why that is something, I think it comes down to those of us thinking that his policies and why we hate them, that they're helping to take what was started in earlier years of this country and further erode it into unsustainable patterns that will permanently make us sustain to be a viable democracy. I've been on record saying I don't think America will be here probably 100 years from now. We will be here, but in their current form, no. I think we'll be so indebted. Our country's going to change, and I don't think there's any turning back from that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try, and I'm going to slug it out. But, now, it's funny you mention that. I think the reason, and perhaps that you perceive that, is many of us for years, and I don't know how old you are, Talinda, but
it doesn't say.
I remember watching news of an event, and that was back when there were the 3 news networks. I would see Carter or Nixon or Reagan do something. You know, they did a speech. And then you hear about it later on the news, and it's like, what? That's not what I took from that. And then you find out that when you hear somebody ask a question, you're like, why didn't they ask this guy? And not just Obama. I'm talking Nixon, Carter, everything. Why didn't they ask this guy this? And so what has come with the birth of cable news and internet
24-hour news
is that those of us that feel that the mainstream media has a certain bias, it has formed a media that perhaps does have a bias of the other side, and it feeds those of us that feel we've been left out for a long time. You know, gosh, I like listening to this guy because that's the way I see it. And so there's more than ever a media that does not hold this president accountable.
Right.
And Talinda, that will be something I don't know what you think of ABC, CNBC, all that, but this president on IRS, on the Benghazi,
NSA,
he has not answered questions. And if you listen to the O'Reilly thing, why? You know, why did Susan Rice say this?
Right.
You were told this now, but just give me a flippin' answer. Why?
Yeah.
Still, he doesn't answer. And so it very much frustrates us, and perhaps that's the reason there's a growing and a sense on your part that what you would call the conservative right or whatever is so hard against him, is because we feel that our press is not doing its job. And you know, this president alluded, well, these things wouldn't exist if it weren't for Fox News. Yeah. How about the parents, Talinda? You please write us back. How about the parents of the Benghazi people murdered that still say we haven't got an answer from this administration? What happened? We want to know.
Right.
And Talinda, I would hope you would want to know.
Yeah.
If your family was killed over there, you want to know. And unlike Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make at this time? It makes a big difference, and it's people's lives.
Yeah.
And this man said he was going to be transparent, and he is anything but.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that really bothers me when you saw it, you see congressmen, you see congresswomen, you see people on the right who are beginning to actually call people, I don't know if you saw, and I can't remember which congressman it was, call Rachel Maddow out and say, you know what, if you would stop being a cheerleader for a moment and be a journalist, you would see. And I think the one thing that bothers me, if there was anything that bothered me about this president, it's this. I didn't get that, Jimbo. Patriot Greg's in the chat. Oh, check. He got Patriot Greg in there that says the press is doing the job that the owner wants. Press should not be owned by one person or corporation. It should be employee owned. And so, I mean, that's a great That's a great point. And the thing that bothers me about this is that I am a history buff. I am a patriot of this country. I put something on Facebook yesterday that's a quote by Mark Twain that says, "Patriotism is supporting your country all of the time and your government when they deserve it." And the thing that bothers me the most about this president is that you can go back through history. You can go in Democrat, Republican alike. You can go back to Truman, who had the buck stops here on his desk, that will say, "I'm the one who is responsible because I am the one who is in charge. I am the one that the buck stops here. I may not know what happened, but if it happened on my watch, it's my fault." And we have a president now who wants to blame a cable news company because they somehow are changing the way that people believe about it. It is nothing but blame and shifting.
His IRS chief took the fifth. There's the FBI is still investigating, in the midst of an investigation, and he said there's not a smidgen.
Yeah. And
corruption.
Yeah, no,
a smidgen.
And to consistently do that, even with your mouthpiece with Jay Carney, which is a whole nother story, to consistently blame by name Fox News, Limbaugh, the right, who constantly just say things about him, and to say that it's not my fault, I didn't know, I'm not to blame, really smacks in the face of, that's not a president, Mr. Obama, that's a king. And we don't have kings in this country.
One other point with to Linda's deal. Yes, I have seen another president. Reagan was reviled by the left. And it's not often looked at that because a lot of things happen now where it wants to look at like Reagan was loved and blah, blah, blah. When he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," there was the left go, "What the heck is Reagan opening his big mouth? Yeah. What? He's ticking off the Russians again." You know, Reagan got bashed a lot.
Yeah.
He was, and every Republican in office since Dwight Eisenhower has been mentioned in the press and called a monkey.
A monkey.
A monkey.
Yeah. No, and here's what I would hope. I would hope, simply because it's the right thing to do, I would hope that if and when there is a Republican president, that Fox News would report that president fairly. And when he or she screws up, they should say.
Right. And
the
fear is that Fox, and I understand this, and I don't agree with it, is you don't want your people that you feel agree with you taking sides, but you feel perhaps they're going to because they have to balance. When they say fair and balanced, that's because they feel there's so many of their watchers that feel, and you listen to the stuff on the other side, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
And so that is, and I would say to Linda, that scares me. That scares me that a side, i.e. Fox News, whatever, would not hold a Republican to the same standards as a Democrat because they're doing the same thing the left is doing. And then what would happen is you get this balances of instead of a
fair journalism,
fair
that's coming
press journalism that holds everyone accountable.
That's exactly right, which it used to be. I'm going to end it with this because this is what I truly believe and saddens me about the president of our country right now. And it's this. The power of the presidency is immense. And it doesn't matter who holds the office. the presidency, the office of president, is immense, and for this president to bring out people like Limbaugh, and I'm not backing them. I'm saying this is who he says into Fox News and everything. It sounds a little bit like the little kid who comes in and screams to his mom that somebody's being mean to me. The power of the presidency should not be based upon what any one cable company thinks of you. It doesn't matter who you are, when you serve. There's going to be a cable company that dislikes you, that disagrees with you, that may even say racist, hateful things about you, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It's always been the purpose and the pride of the presidency and the office to rise above that. And so my suggestion would be to this president, to my president, whether I voted for him or not. Mr. Obama, if you want to be treated like a president, then by God, act like the president.
Hear, hear.
That's our story, and we're sticking to it.
That's my story. Oh, that's my story. Well, I ain't got a witness, and I can't prove it. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.